It all started with a small change I almost didn't notice. My wife had been coming home late, claiming work deadlines, but her tone was shifted. Her laughter seemed forced, and her phone was suddenly always face down. I brushed it I brushed it off at first. Everyone gets busy, I told myself. But one evening, as I passed by our bedroom, I noticed her phone buzzing repeatedly. Out of curiosity, I glanced at the screen and froze. There it was, a message from a name I didn't recognize. The words made my stomach drop. Can't wait to see you again. My hands shook. My heart pounded. I had stumbled upon the first undeniable piece of evidence, the truth I never wanted to face. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind raced, wondering how long this had been going on and what other signs I had ignored. The next morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to confront her, but the fear of what I might hear made me almost freeze in place. Could this really be happening in my own life? I couldn't wait any longer. That evening I confronted her. I remember my voice trembling, but I forced myself to stay calm. I saw the messages. We need to talk. Her face went pale. There was a brief moment of silence, and then she tried to laugh it off, saying it was just harmless texting and that I was overreacting. My chest tightened. The excuses kept coming: stress, loneliness, misunderstandings. But deep down I knew. I could feel the truth in her eyes. The betrayal had already happened. Every word she said sounded hollow. Every explanation fell flat. The person I had trusted with my entire life was hiding something monumental from me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to disappear, but instead I listened, taking in every word, every pause. I realized this confrontation was only the beginning. How I reacted next would shape everything that followed. I left the room that night with my mind spinning, wondering if our marriage could survive this. My heart was shattered, but I knew I had to make the choice: run away from the pain or face it head on. The days after the confrontation were a blur. I couldn't focus at work, I barely ate, and slept felt impossible. Every little sound in the house made my chest tighten. Every laugh, every phone notification reminded me of what I had discovered. I went through waves of anger, imagining every betrayal in vivid detail. Then came the crushing sadness, a deep ache in my chest, knowing the life I had trusted would never be the same. I questioned about myself. Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? Could I have prevented this? Friends tried to comfort me, but words felt empty. I realized that the pain was mine alone to process. And yet, amid the hurt, a tiny flicker of clarity emerged. I needed to understand, to face the truth fully, or I would be trapped in endless torment. I journaled every thought, every feeling, desperate to make sense of the chaos. It was in these private moments that I started to see patterns, understand her behavior, and recognize my own emotions. Acceptance wasn't coming yet, but a path forward has slowly forming. After a week of sleepless nights and emotional roller coasters, I realized I couldn't stay in limbo. I had to make the choice: rebuild our marriage or walk away and reclaim my life. I asked myself the hard questions. Can I trust her again? Do I want to live in fear and suspicion, or do I deserve a fresh start? Each answer brought clarity, even if it hurt. We sat down for a long conversation. I laid everything out: my hurt, my anger, my fears, and asked for honesty, no excuses. Her reactions revealed more than words: remorse, guilt, and willingness to try, or so it seemed. I knew the road wouldn't be easy. Rebuilding trust would take time, patience, and vulnerability from both of us. Yet I also realized that walking away didn't mean defeat. It meant choosing peace and self-respect. That night I made my decision. I was focused on myself first, while giving our marriage a chance if she truly proved she could change. I couldn't promise perfection, but I could promise that I wouldn't lose myself in the process. Looking back, I realized now that the pain I felt wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about losing the version of life I thought I had. But through the heartbreak, I learned some hard truth about myself and relationships. First, trust is fragile and must be nurtured. I also learned that ignoring small changes and warning signs only magnifies the shock when the truth comes out. But most importantly, I realized that my self-worth doesn't depend on anyone else's choices. It comes from within. To anyone going through similar, here is my advice. Face the truth, no matter how painful. Pretending nothing happened, only problems and suffering. Process your emotions honestly. Anger, sadness, confusion, don't suppress them. Decide your path deliberately. Whether you rebuild or walk away, do it for yourself, not for appearances. Seek support, but remember that only you can heal your heart. Life after betrayal is a journey, not a single moment. Pain and growth coexist, and sometimes the most devastating events teach us the most profound lessons. The first weeks after confronting her felt endless. Every little thing reminded me of the betrayal. A smile, a laugh, even the way our home felt different. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Other days I forced myself to do simple tasks just to feel a sense of control. I started journaling every thought and feeling, even the irrational ones. Writing became my anchor, a way to untangle my chaos in my mind. I also reached to the friends I hadn't spoken to in months, sharing bits of my pain. Their support reminded me I wasn't alone. I experimented with small coping techniques, running in the morning, cooking meals for myself, even meditating. Each small step didn't erase the pain, but it gave me a foothold, a way to reclaim pieces of my life that had felt stolen. Some nights I still felt waves of anger and betrayal, but I began to see them as part of the healing process, reminded that I was a human, that I cared deeply, and that I was learning how to move forward. After weeks of reflection, I realized that the next step was action. I had to decide whether to try to rebuild the marriage or to start a new chapter on my own. We started attending counseling together. The sessions were painful. Every session peeled back layers of deception, miscommunication, and unspoken resentment. I asked the tough questions, refusing to let comfort or excuses blind me. Her willingness to answer honestly became the first test of whether truth could be rebuilt. At the same time, I set personal boundaries. I needed space to process my emotions without being pulled into constant arguments. I began prioritizing my mental and emotional health, understanding that rebuilding trust wasn't about ignoring the past. It was about moving forward consciously. Some days I felt hopeful, seeing small gestures of sincerity and honesty. Other days, doubt crept in, but I realized that whatever path I chose, I had to honor my well-being first. Whether rebuilding or moving on, I was reclaiming control over my life. Even as I tried to move forward, the triggers were everywhere. A random ringtone that sounded like this text alert, a perfume she used to wear, even certain songs on the radio, they all sent me spiraling back into the memory of betrayal. At first, I fought against these moments, trying to shut them out, but the harder I resisted, the stronger they came. I felt like I was revealing the discovery over and over again. One evening, while walking past a cafe where we once had a date, I broke down. The weight of those old memories crushed me. But instead of running, I stopped, breathed deeply, and allowed myself to feel the pain. It was overwhelming, but strangely, it was also freeing. I began to realize that healing wasn't about erasing the triggers, that I was about facing them and reclaiming my response. Each time I acknowledged the pain without letting it consume me, I took another step toward healing. The journey was far from easy, but for the first time I started to believe that I could live with the memories and not let them control me.